Warning: adult content. One day later. Each step to school felt heavy. My backpack weighed more than usual. I replayed last night in my head. I still couldn't believe Sarah was a white Lycan. She should have been respected, loved, and yet she was stuck with me. A useless girl who got most of the pack killed by rogues, just because I wanted to run away after a fight with my family. You're not useless, Sarah defended me. Their deaths weren't your fault, no matter what they say, and I'd rather be stuck with you than anyone else. The whispers started right away as I sat down in class. Look, it's the birthday girl. Someone called out, knowing I'd hear. Then came the snickers. Did anyone even show up for her shift yesterday? Another voice asked. My face burned, but I kept my eyes downcast to my books. They wanted me to react, but I wouldn't. Poor thing, one girl, Sarah fake whispered. All alone on her big day. I don't know why the king lets her stay. He should have cast her out as a rogue years ago, after she got everyone killed. I'll bet the goddess didn't even give her a Lycan. You're probably right, she's just a pathetic murder, she's not worthy of a Lycan. Tears welled up, but I pushed them back, and luckily, the teacher came in at that moment. Let them think we're an Omega, Sarah told me. It'll make it that much sweeter when they're bowing at our feet. 3 years later. I was making breakfast for school, when my father walked into the kitchen with 2 men I'd never seen before. He looked like he hadn't slept, and smelt like a tavern. Why are you even dressed for school? He asked as his hand swung out and struck my cheek. I fell back, hitting my hip on the bench, and I cringed in pain. You're too stupid to make anything of yourself. He continued as he grabbed my throat. You're nothing but trash. I'm taking you out of school. I've sold you to these men for the day. My stomach twisted into a knot. I knew what this meant. My heart hammered against my ribs. There was no escape in that moment. What? I asked, my heart racing. You really hate me that much? My dad's grip tightened. If I could, I would skin you alive. I kneed him in the crutch, and he fell to the ground in shock. Fuck you! I screamed and kicked him in the stomach. I am not the reason they all died. You are. You're the reason I ran that night. And I am not responsible for what those rogues did. Oh, perfect, one of the men laughed. I love it when they fight, as he pulled out some odd-looking gun. But it's easier if they just lay there. He shot the gun and a dart hit me. I instantly felt weaker and fell to my knees as Sarah passed out, and the other man walked over, grabbed me by my hair, and pulled me outside towards a beat-up truck. He forced me inside, while the first man drove us somewhere. The ride was silent except for the occasional comment between the men. I fought hard to stay conscious, despite the drug flowing through my veins. It was a long drive. Every bump in the road made my body tense. My mind raced, but there was no way out. I looked out the window, watching the trees blur as we drove deeper into the woods, far from any signs of life. My hands were clammy. By the time we reached a small, run-down cabin, hidden by overgrown bushes, it was dark. I was pulled from the truck, kicking and screaming, as my strength began to return, but they shot with another dart. I thought she was just an Omega. That trank should have knocked the bitch out cold by now. Who cares, it'll be more fun if she's half conscious. A generator sputtered somewhere nearby, as they shoved me inside. The air was heavy with dampness, and the smell of stale tobacco. My eyes adjusted to the dim light. There was a dirty cot, a small table and fridge. Nothing else. My voice was gone. My legs felt like jelly. I was trapped. The night happened. It was a blur of pain, of cold hands, of a terrifying emptiness. I felt my soul crack. They took the last of my spirit. Something inside me, something pure, was ripped away. Afterward I lay there, my mind numb, while my body stung in agony. The weight of last night pressed down on me, and I just stared at the ceiling, not really seeing anything. My body ached, but my mind even then began to stir. Not with tears, but with a cold, hard resolve. I would make them pay. One day, I would burn them all to the ground and skin my father alive, just as he dreamed of doing to me. Morning light filtered through the cracked window while I stayed awake. They snored loudly, their heavy breathing filling the small space. My body was sore but my mind was sharp. This was my chance. I had spent years under my father's thumb, always looking for an opening. Had learned things, small things, how to be quiet, how to pick a simple lock, but as I opened the door, I was hit in the shoulder with a dart, and I looked back at one of the men, smirking at me. "Where the F***ck are you going, toy? We still have a few hours left before we have to hand you back over to your father." 1 year later. For the past year my father was selling me to men, like I was some disposable object he could just throw around. There was still a small piece of me felt tied to the family we used to be before my mother died, a small piece that longed for my father to love me again, like he did when I was his little girl. But that piece shattered one night, when my father came home drunk and forced me into his bed, calling out my mother's name the whole time he destroyed me. After that night, his visits to my room became a regular occurrence, and during 4 heats per year, he'd tie me in the basement and let men come. Even Aamon, the king's son, would come down, and his cruelty was on par with my father's. If he took the throne, we'd all be in hell. My father kept me sedated. No one understood how I'd become so strong. They all still believe I was an Omega, and I couldn't wait for the day to come where they found out my true identity, and on that day I would leave them. I kept a list in my mind of all the men who'd tortured me, or ***ped me, and belittled me. I would get my revenge one day, and on that day I would smile as they died drowning in their own blood. A day after my 17th birthday, my father brought home Veronica, his new mate. He'd married in one drunken binge-drinking weekend. She was perfect for my father. She was as equally cruel. It wasn't just harsh words. She made my days a living nightmare. The abuse grew worse with each passing week. She tore through our mother's belongings, her eyes holding a strange, desperate hunger. Every drawer, every closet, every old photo album. Nothing was safe from her relentless hunt. And my father, who had toured me every day since my mother died out of loyalty to her, didn't seem to care that her belongings were being destroyed or sold off. Over time, I found out this woman was my father's first love, and he'd left her for my mother, so she would hurt me to get revenge on my mother. But then after her beatings, she'd kneel and thank me for getting my mother killed, before leaving me withering in pain. 1 year later. Today was my 18th birthday, and would coincide with Prince Aamon's birthday. Royals and alphas from all over our territory, and the overseas king, King Greyson, was coming to discuss a treaty. I was sitting in my room on my mattress. Veronica had taken my bed frame months ago, when my evil stepmother came in. She was dressed in one of my mother's old robes, I'd kept safe all these years, and tossed me a black dress. "Your father had contracted you out to the king tonight for the party. Go, and if you embarrass us, You'll what, bitch?" I snarled as I stood up. "What could you do to me that you haven't already?" Veronica stuck me, and I stepped back holding my busted lip. "I think you'd be much better if you couldn't speak," she glared at me. "I should get your father to remove your tongue and sew your lips together." "Fuck you." She spat at my feet and walked out, but I didn't let her words bother me. I was 18 now. I could finally leave the pack legally, and not even the king could bring me back, not that they'd ever find me. Tonight my duty was obvious: blend in, serve drinks, clear plates, and don't draw attention. And then at the end of the night, while everyone was drunk, I would run. The grand hall hummed with music and laughter. I wore my plain black dress uniform, a stark contrast to the gowns surrounding me. I moved through the crowd. Faces blurred. Jewels flashed. My tray felt heavy, but I focused on each task. Don't drop anything. Don't make eye contact. The king sat on his throne. He looked distant and bored as he spoke with another man. He was extremely handsome. Tall, muscular, and with the kindest face I'd ever seen. He turned and caught my eyes, but I quickly lowered my face, my heart racing. It was the first time in my life that someone had looked at me without hatred. Someone announced Aamon's arrival, and everyone watched him, as he strutted in with his date Carol, who was glaring at the other woman as if to warn them off. Then it happened. Sudden jolt. Like lightning. My body tingled. My breath hitched. My eyes found his, As I dropped the tray on the ground, our gazes met across the room. Something powerful connected us. It was the mate pull. Felt sick. Aamon walked towards me. Every eye followed him in confusion. My hand shook. He stopped right in front of me, rage in his eyes. Silence fell. "You," he said. His voice was cold, loud. "How are you my mate?" "Mate. Did you hear that? She can't be his mate." Voices rose up from the crowd. "You are nothing to me," he shouted and slapped me. "I, Aamon, the future king, reject you, Cassia, as my mate." I squared my shoulders, my voice firm and steady. "I, Cassia, accept your rejection." Why didn't I feel any pain outside the sting of the embarrassment of the public rejection? "Leave this hall. Now." Aamon screamed and shoved me, as the others laughed and I ran from the hall. I noticed King Greyson standing up, along with the king's brother, Prince Tolen, but I ignored them and just ran. Fled. I ran past gasping faces. The hall's laughter echoed in my ears. I didn't stop until I was outside. The night air was cold. My chest ached. How could this happen? Why me? Why was that scum my mate? I didn't wait until the party was over. I shifted and ran, not caring that some of the guards noticed I was white. Because of the drug my father gave me, I was still weak, but I ran as fast as I could.